Alright, in this lesson I'll introduce the is-in method, which can be useful for checking for multiple values within a single series. This is especially helpful when you want to complete a filter process that involves multiple values and you don't want to create multiple Boolean series. So to demonstrate the efficiency of this method, let's begin by executing our code and re-importing our CSV file. And let's say I present to you this challenge. Let's say I want to extract all the rows from this DF data frame where the value in the team column is either legal, sales, or product. So what's the brute force way that we can go around and do this? Well, we can create three separate Boolean series. So I can do something like, let's extract our team series with our square brackets. Let's compare the values here to our first team, which is legal. We'll get our Boolean series. We'll assign it to a variable like mask1, and then we can copy this code and do the exact same comparisons for the other two teams we want, which is sales and product, and then also make sure that we have all of these Boolean series stored in separate variables. And afterwards we can use our familiar syntax, write our data frame name df followed by square brackets, write our three variables here, storing our Boolean series, and separate each of them with our vertical pipe to indicate OR. So either mask1, mask2, or mask3, there has to be a true in either one of those three series for that row, so either legal, sales, or product. And that's going to bring us a data frame where the team values are going to be either legal, sales, or product. And that's fine, I guess, but as you can see, it's a little bit inefficient. We are starting to duplicate code, and we're basically repeating the exact same process. We're comparing these three separate values to the values in the team column. So it's for situations like this that the is-in method is basically a huge lifesaver. Especially, in this case we have something like 3 teams. But if you have something like a Python list of 100 teams and you want to check whether the values in a series are in that list, you really don't want to be writing 100 different Boolean series. It's an incredible waste of time. So the is-in method takes care of this problem. So how does it work? Let's begin by collapsing this output right here. So basically, we're still going to start with extracting our series column. So df team. Here I have all my team values. But now what I'm going to do is, instead of using something like the equals operator or the equality comparison or the inequality comparison with the exclamation point, I'm going to actually call the method is-in. So it's going to be .is-in and open my parentheses because it is a method. And to this method, I can provide something like a Python list or a Python tuple or even another series. And what it's going to do is compare the values in my team column with the argument that I pass in. And if the value in the current row in that series, in this case team, is in the object that I pass in, then it's going to return true. Otherwise, it's going to return false. So for example, what I can do here is pass in a Python list. I'll do that with my pair of square brackets. And I could write in legal, sales, and product. So inside, I've generated a Python list of 3 strings, each separated with a comma. And this is-in method is basically going to loop through every value in my team column and check whether it's in the values within my Python list. So as it proceeds downward, it's going to say marketing. Is it in our list? Nope, this is going to be false. And so is our null values, and so is finance, and so is client services. And once it gets to a row where the value is in the list, legal is one of our 3 options, then it's going to return true. And it's going to do the exact same thing for when it runs into sales or product. So now if I execute this, I'm going to get another Boolean series. But now I have trues for multiple conditions. A true for legal, sales, and product. Now that I have this condition, I can assign it to a variable like mask. So I rather have my Boolean series, and I'm assigning it to my mask variable. And now I can pass it in here inside my square brackets and get the exact same result. As you can see, the teams here are all legal, product, or sales. Now, what's great about this as well is if our query expands, or maybe if we're coming back to this project later and we have to modify it, we don't have to create an extra Boolean series. If our boss says, well, now I want to actually include marketing, well, then you could say, all right, well, I'm just going to add another value to this list, and now marketing is going to be included. If your boss then says, we no longer want to look at sales, well, then it's a matter of removing it. And now sales is not included on that list, and we're going to get a brand new data frame. So it remains a lot more adaptable to future change, whether you want to add or remove values. And as you can see from the comparison in the cell above, it also takes up significantly less code. So whenever you're dealing with comparing for multiple values within a single series, always try to stick to the is-in method. Sometimes when I'm doing my own work and I have something like 2 conditions in the same column, maybe I'll forget the is-in method and just write those 2 Boolean series separately, and certainly that approach will work. But whenever you start dealing with comparing multiple values, it's always optimal to use the is-in method. It just works a lot easier. And by the way, of course, the is-in method does not just have to take a Python thing like a list or a tuple. It can take another series. So for example, if you have another data frame with another team column and you want to compare the values from one data frame and another, you can pass in something like a series to the is-in method, and it'll look for the values that you're currently looking at in your current series within the values of the other series that's being passed as the argument to that is-in method. So play around with this method. It can be particularly helpful. And in the next lesson, we'll continue our exploration of different ways that we can generate Boolean series in Pandas.